Hello everybody, I'm Kevin Wynn, and this is Rewind, a show that looks back on Florida's past through historic film and video. This time, let's go to the Keys. The fishing's great.
The fly goes out. The tarpon move under the fly.
Fly rod tarpon is an interesting look at fishing for tarpon, huge fish weighing in at about 100 pounds in the waters of the Florida Keys. The film has lots of great scenery, lots of 50-year-old fly fishing technique, and one of the most colorful and unusual countdown leaders ever, which is going to start right about now.
This is a story about a fish and a fisherman. The fish is a very special one, as are all tarpon of more than 100 pounds when they've been caught on a fly. The angler is special, too, in that he helps design and control the making of fishing tackle for America's #1 fishing tackle company, a job that involves a great deal of work with many kinds of tackle, the planning, the checking of designs, the control of production. It calls for a contact with fishermen all over the world, an understanding of their desires and needs, and it calls for thousands of letters each year. And occasionally for a little fishing. At the Garcia Conalon plant at Santa Ana, California, 3,000 miles away from the main East Coast office, our angler, Dick Wolf, tests a fly rod. Only when you've felt a fly rod bend to a heavy pull can you know it will still be lively when the going is really rough. This rod, like all other fiberglass rods, began as a part of a sheet of woven fibers. The blank is first cut to proper length, then trimmed to exactly the right size and shape. With a hot iron, the blank is tacked to a tapered steel mandrel. A heavy sliding press rolls the fiberglass sheet firmly around the steel. In this condition, the rods enter a very hot oven and are baked for more than an hour. When they come out, the glass fibers are bonded together permanently. The tapered mandrel is removed and the basic rod is complete. Each rod blank is thoroughly inspected in every detail. The slightest variation in a rod blank would affect the action of the rod. Coat after coat of epoxy coloring ensures permanent color. The rod is cut into 2 sections. The tip top is cemented in place. The ferrule is set for the joining of the 2 sections. Then the reel seat and grip are cemented securely into position. Finally, the guides are wound in place with beauty and precision. The tape on the winder's fingers permits the use of a greater pressure on the thread and gives the smoothest, strongest possible setting of guides to rod. The fiberglass material is constantly being refined and improved. and only perfect blanks go through to the finishing process. These hollow fiberglass rods are permanent and durable. No other material has the same permanence and resilience. Perfect design will give exactly the right performance for each type of fishing. When all the guides are perfectly positioned and aligned and the trim has been completed, the rod is ready for action. Stu Apt, famous tarpon guide of the Florida Keys, watches while Dick Wolf ties a 4-0 fly to the end of a leader. The special tarpon leader that has a foot of 80-pound nylon near the fly for protection against the cutting jaws, then a 12-pound section more than a foot long, before the 20, 40, and 60-pound sections taper up to the strength and diameter of the fly line's point. The fly line has 200 yards of 20-pound backing behind it. Every knot must be tested. Every link in the whole tackle chain must be perfect, all matched to the action of the blue Garcia fly rod. These are the great tarpon flats that surround the western Florida Keys, where the tarpon, like the anglers' boats, pass under the highway's bridges, cross the deeper coves and bays, follow the winding channels, and work their way up onto the flats. It is one of the fly fishermen's great good fortunes that a fish as big as a tarpon, a fish that will take a fly as readily, will come into such shallow waters. Square mile after square mile is rarely more than a few feet deep. And with no deep water at hand, the fish tend to swim near the surface, to be up where they can be seen and where they can see an angler's fly. When the water is smooth, any tarpon that come to the surface are easily spotted, but they're wary and hard to approach. In such smooth water, these fish are sensitive to any sharp sound or any ripple from the boat. Now's the time to get the fly rod ready, to get enough line out to make a long cast, and to move stealthily within range of these big, wary fish. The cast just doesn't hit the right spot, or the fly doesn't have the right action, and the fish move off and go down. There's a stingray, colored to match his surroundings. And there are the tarpon again, big fish, circling slowly, all too easily frightened by a careless splash or a misplaced cast. The fly goes out. The tarpon move under the fly. One hits. The rod bends. The tarpon comes up, and the fly comes loose. Only about 1 tarpon in 5 strike a fly is hooked. These fish have a very hard mouth, and except for a few soft places, a hook just scrapes across it and can't dig in. Fly fishing for big tarpon means casting to a particular fish, and it takes sunshine to make these fish visible as they swim just under the surface. So guide Stu Apt tries to stay on the areas of sunlit water. The fly goes out again on a real long cast, and back comes the fly on the retrieve. They're following it in. A big tarpon moves up on the fly, opens his mouth to take it, then sees the boat and turns away. As the tides change, so do the feeding spots of the tarpon, and the fishermen follow the channels between the keys and the tide flats to reach a better area for each particular tide level. Traveling, they watch the rich bird life of the keys, the heron, the egrets, the cormorant, and the pelicans as they skim low over the water. The ospreys as they hover in the sky, with sharp eyes scanning the flats below for a small fish near enough the surface to be taken. And gulls occasionally fly above them with sturdy wing beats. These are the waters of the Florida Keys in May, when the tarpon fishing is near its peak, when the sun and the waters are warm, and the winter visitors from the north have gone back home. This is a wild and lonely area, a very pleasant place for a fisherman to be with a fly rod and a great desire to catch a big tarpon. Hours of watching are a part of every tarpon fishing day. There's a sea pigeon, a strange, squid-like, slow-moving form of marine life. In these clear waters, marine life is easy to see, and one never knows what the ocean may put in the path of an angler next. There's a sea turtle. He may be slow on land, but he's swift-moving in his native element. There are those long blue shadows again. The line comes off the reel. There goes the cast. The tarpon turn and follow, a whole school of them. But the fly comes back untouched. Dick Wolf casts again. Stu Apt watches the following fish. And one takes it right beside the boat. Some tarpon start right in and leap time after time, and when they do, an angler is usually happy. After the first few jumps, if the hook hasn't pulled free, he can hope it will hold until the fish is captured, and he knows that every beautiful jump he sees helps to tire the fish a little bit more. Tarpon tend to jump more in shallow water than they do in the deep. But after the jumps have tired him, the tarpon can still travel right along. And that 6-ounce fly rod and the ordinary single-action fly reel, the same tackle a fisherman would use to cast bugs for bass on an inland lake, really gets a workout. The trick at landing is to work the tarpon into the shallows where he can't go deep and sulk. Stu picks up the release gaff. Even a tired fish of this size is hard to handle. Controlling him means straining the tackle to the very limit. He's tough, but he's tired. And eventually he comes close enough. And the gaff slips into his jaw. Up he comes. And out comes the fly. Then the release. Stu guesses his weight at 95 pounds. Not quite a trophy fish, but he'll soon grow up to be one. So it's goodbye and good luck. They move on again, to pole quietly through the tarpon waters. It's pole and watch. Pole and watch. And be ready to cast. He follows, he takes, and he feels the hook. He's a good one, and the hook's still holding. Dick and Stu know this is the one that counts. This is where perfect teamwork, perfect playing will mean a trophy on the wall, and any mistake will mean a lifelong regret. The fish travels, then leaps, then travels again. But the leaps grow slower, and the fish stays lower in the water. The pace grows still slower as the tackle strain begins to tell. It's a strain that tells on the angler as well as on the fish. Dick dares not relax the tackle tension or his alertness to every move the fish makes. Whenever the fish gets a chance to rest a little, the pace speeds up again. At the end of an hour and a quarter, Stu picks up the gaff. The rod strains to the limits of its strength and holds the fish within range. But the tarpon twists as the stroke is made, and the gaff comes back with a single scale. The tarpon finds new strength and makes another long run. In a steady drive, he works his way across a long, deeper channel. Then, minutes later, he tries to cross a shallow flat. Stu ties the boat to his pole and Dick tries to hold the big fish in that shallow water. Around the boat he swings at a maximum strain on that 12-pound leader segment. Minute after minute, every action of the fish is met by the Garcia fly rod's resilient pressure. But he's still too strong to bring in, and he pulls away, and they follow him again. A magnificent, but a very tired tarpon. He's almost within gaffing range again, but he moves away for a final flurry of action. And then, as the gaff strikes home and the fish is finally subdued, there's a wonderful feeling of success. The release gaff hooks in, and together they lift him into the boat. There's that 4-0 fly, the key to the most sporting type of fishing for what may be the most sporting fish in the world. The big tarpon of the clear, shallow, sunlit flats. How much will he weigh? Well, he's over 100 pounds for sure. He's beyond that magic weight that makes a tarpon a real trophy fish. But just how heavy is he? Every pound will count. The scales will tell the story, and they go up to 127 pounds and a half. On a highly successful day for that Garcia fly rod, for Dick Wolf, our special angler, and for his guide, Stu Apt of the Florida Keys.
Time for a break. We'll be back with more Rewind in just a minute.
Be creative. Be the solution. Be innovative. Be successful. Be you. Be MDC. Be Miami-Dade College.
Next up, more from the Florida Keys. 3 news stories from 3 decades ago that capture a bit of the flavor of the Keys, including the discovery of sunken treasure and a visit to a couple who live in a massive fort on the Dry Tortugas. Let's watch.
70 pounds is 70 pounds, even if it is a silver bar. With an estimated 48 tons of treasure down there, Mel Fisher's treasure salvers have a lot of heave-hoeing ahead.
And it's heavy work. There's tons and tons of the silver, so when we get back to the dock with it, it's going to be a bigger job getting it off of this boat up onto the dock.
Matrosi and fellow diver Greg Wareham discovered the mother lode during a dive yesterday 40 miles off of Key West.
All I saw was like a little reef, and then I noticed silver bars just laid out all over the place.
What can I say? It awed me. Just amazing.
Treasure salvers have been hunting for the wreck of the Etosha for 15 years. By midday, they'd raised about 175 silver bars, lumps of silver coins, and other artifacts which have sat on the ocean floor for 350 years.
You know the golden rule. He who has the gold rules. Well, right now in Key West, treasure hunter Mel Fisher is the king of the hill. The mountain of gold he is pulling up from the wreck of a 350-year-old Spanish galleon is floating an armada of tourists into Key West. The shop owners are treasuring it.
I've certainly noticed a difference, yes. There's a lot of people in town.
I saw Mel on Johnny Carson last night, and I was like, when I came down the street this morning, there was a line of traffic.
About 35% more tourists are lining the streets of Key West this summer. Pat McFeely, a marketing consultant who runs 4 information booths, says they have 100 inquiries a day about Fisher's treasure.
I guess it's kind of a feather in our cap because, you know, tourism has been fluctuating a lot down here. It's, you know, it gets better, but not as best as we'd like it. And now that Mel Fisher has found the gold, everybody's just flocking down to see it.
Last Saturday was the best day in Key West in 6 months. It's the lure of the old-fashioned treasure hunter, men who go down to the sea in ships and bring back the gold.
It's a clever thing. See a man that determined to do something and, you know, carry it out. It's kind of nice.
You couldn't wipe the smile off this man's face with a stick of dynamite. Mel Fisher called him one morning to invest in the treasure hunt, and that night, Fisher found the treasure.
That was the day they went out and found this stuff. That was the day, man. That was the day.
You're a happy man.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Mel Fisher brought the Spanish gold up from the deep blue sea, and that event has brought the American dollar to Key West. The tourists are back in droves. Ed Odell, News 4.
One thing about the home of Debbie and Jay Liggett, you can literally drop in to see them anytime, so long as you find a way to get there.
Well, a lot of times they'll run to their atlas and then they won't be able to find us on the atlas because there's no road out here.
That's because home is almost 70 miles west of Key West as the crow flies over water. You see, for the past 2.5 years, Debbie and Jay have been the ranger caretakers of Fort Jefferson, a 141-year-old island fort left over from the Civil War, and now the most remote outpost of this nation's national park system.
Anyone would come here if they knew it was not forever. And so how many people get an opportunity to have their own island, and how many people get to live in a fort?
And certainly no one else can boast of a home with greater protection from intruders. One of the reasons 16 million bricks were originally hauled out here. 8-foot thick walls, 50 feet high. This was supposed to be a garrison for 1,500 men and, well, 450 cannons, but none were ever fired. No, in fact, Fort Jefferson was never even completed. So what's it like living day after day alone at sea in a deserted military fortress?
We read a lot. I'm an avid bird watcher. This is fall migration. We chase the birds, we snorkel.
It's paradise or a prison, depends on your perspective. It depends on your own outlook.
For instance, for Dr. Samuel Mudd, this was definitely nothing more than a prison. He spent 4 years in this dark, damp cell after the Civil War for setting the broken leg of presidential assassin John Wilkes Booth.
And if you had to spend some time in here in leg irons, it probably wouldn't have been a very comfortable stay.
But for the Liggetts, Fort Jefferson has been a very comfortable home, even a great home.
Yeah, it is a great place to live.
But me, I'm just looking for a great way out of here so I can go back home. John Holden, News 4.
That's about it for this edition of Rewind. Just time to mention that if you notice an occasional jump cut or awkward edit, remember, not all of the shows that have come down to us are complete. Some are missing scenes or whole segments. But all of these shows, even incomplete ones, offer us a fascinating glimpse of Florida's history. They're well worth a look. Rewind features historic film and video from the Lynn and Lewis Wolfson II Florida Moving Image Archives. To see more from the Wolfson Archives collections, visit our website, wolfsonarchives.org. You can search the Archives catalog, watch video online, and connect to our YouTube channel where you'll find hundreds of carefully curated clips. Or a link to the Wolfson Archives Facebook page to keep up with our busy calendar of historical happenings. Until next time, I'm Kevin Wynn. Thanks for watching.